Hello, students. What I'm going to be showing you right now is how to write the meal paragraph for the debunking myths about slavery topic. And so basically, this is the first kind of official meal paragraph you're doing for the class. But I want you to understand that a lot of the things that you've already been doing in class are what you need to be doing for the meal paragraph. So, the biggest parts of the meal paragraph are looking for evidence from reliable sources, and explaining how that evidence connects to your ideas. And that's essentially what the basis for what a meal paragraph is about. And meal paragraphs are important because you're going to be using them a lot at ICHS. You'll be expected to write meal paragraphs when you go out to 11th and also 12th grade. A lot of your PBAT projects and your different classes will require you to write paragraphs that are meal paragraphs. So think of this as like the first sort of like time you're really practicing how to do it, do a meal paragraph, and then you're going to apply this and get better at it, this year with your PBAT, coming later in a few weeks. And also, next year's PBATs, same thing. And remember that this is also something that you practice in your English classes. So it's just good to get used to them. All right. So what you're seeing on the screen is the sample meal paragraph. You can find completed samples in the Google Classroom. And basically what you're looking at is the sample one, but it looks a little different from the one that you're working on. And basically because I'm going to add, I have a lot of notes and I'm going to be explaining how to do things. And it has more information on it than the ones that you have to do your meal paragraphs on. But don't worry, the more information is just to help out with the video and also to explain to you when you are looking at the samples. All right. So, like I said before, the purpose of this meal paragraph is to debunk myths about slavery. And debunk basically means to disprove. So basically, what you're doing is you are finding information, finding examples, finding evidence that proves that these myths about slavery are wrong, that they are incorrect. And that's essentially what the whole point of this paragraph is about. So the first thing you have to do is you have to choose one of these myths to debunk or disprove. And just so you know, when you're looking through this and when you're looking at your own meal paragraph document, it's divided into two columns. The one on the left are basically instructions, or some more details, or even links to helpful to things that can help you out. And the one on the right are basically where you're going to be doing your work. You can also, in this example, this is where you'll find the samples of the meal paragraph parts that I'm presenting to you in this video, and also what you will see on the Google Classroom to help you out. And of course, these samples, they are examples. You should be doing your own writing. So I hope you will not have a lot of the same ideas that I will put here in the examples. So in the first section, just so you know, you'll see something here that says teacher notes. And all that means is that this is just the section where, I just give an explanation for what you need to do for this part of the meal paragraph. So you'll see here that you have 5 different choices um, for myths about slavery. And like I said before, like I said in class, please choose one of the topics that you find the most interesting. I think that's the best way to kind of make those final decisions about what you're going to focus on. So we have here these 5 choices. Enslaved people were happy under slavery and had a better life under slavery. Enslaved people were happy with their lives because they did not try to resist or fight back against slavery. Slave owners treated their slaves like family and took care of them as if they were part of their family. Forcing Africans into slavery was okay because the same type of slavery already existed in Africa. And slavery is something that happened a long time ago and does not affect people today. So these are all myths. So no one should be saying, "Oh yeah, I agree with that." That's not the purpose of this paragraph. The purpose is to really for you to read these and think, "Wow, these myths are things that people actually still believe. That is crazy." So the purpose of this paragraph is to choose one of these myths, and you're going to find evidence and details and examples of why this myth, to demonstrate why this myth is incorrect, why it is not true. All right. So what we are working on, we're going to use myth number 2 as the sample. That enslaved people were happy with their lives because they did not try to resist or fight back against slavery. So that's what we're working with. So once you make your selection, you can do one of 2 things. You can simply, highlight the myth that you're going to focus on, just to, so that I know what you're really trying to work on. And what you can also do is just delete all of the other options and leave only this one. So I'll just do both just to make it very clear what's going to be worked on. Okay, so there you go. Now it is very clear which myth is the focus of this paragraph. Now, for the introduction, you're asked to do a couple of things. Now, every meal paragraph has an introduction. No matter what the meal paragraph is about, you should have an introduction to that paragraph. And basically, the introduction is just to really give some details about the bigger idea or bigger topic that you are discussing in the meal paragraph. So even this paragraph is about myths about slavery. So I think the something that you need to discuss as the introduction is just the general idea of what slavery is. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So the first part is asking you, it's saying slavery is defined as, and then you are simply, and then you are giving a definition for slavery. So that is, so there's different ways you can do this. You could use some of the items that I've already shared with you that give a definition of slavery. So what really comes to mind here is if you go on the Google Classroom, in the first section under important links and resources, you will find history vocabulary words. And this is one of the words I've given you a definition for. So you are free to look this word up. So it's right there, slavery, and I gave you a definition for it. So you can use, if you wanted to just kind of like almost copy this definition, that's fine. If you want to just take ideas from this definition, it's also fine. Maybe you want to use Google as well. You want to type into Google, all right, like what is slavery? And see what comes up. You may also do that as part of finding the definition for it. Or if you really think you understand slavery, like what the definition is, you can simply write your own definition. I encourage you, if you have understood what we've been discussing in class, I think it would be great if you wrote your own definition for what slavery is. So I'm going to go ahead and add um, a definition here. All right. And this is one that was developed in class by students. Um, so slavery is a trade of people against their will. It provides economic benefits to the people who enslave others. Slavery is defined as pain for other people, sexual abuse, and mistreatment. All right. So that's like the first part of the introduction. Um, so you basically wrote a definition for what slavery is. And now in the second part, you need to, the starter says that according to this definition, the treatment of Africans brought to the Americas was definitely slavery because. So here, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure to state very clearly that what was that the treatment of Africans who were brought to the Americas as slaves, that it very clearly connects to what your definition of slavery is, the one that you included right here. All right. So in this definition, it's talking about people taken against their will. It talks about economic benefits. It talks about like different types of like abuse, you know. So I think if you wrote an explanation there that's connected to that, that's fine, you know. And remember that this introduction is also an opportunity for you to demonstrate your knowledge of this topic, of what we've been studying for the last couple of weeks. Okay, so I guess I can say that according to this definition, okay, so we also completed an example in class, and I will just add it here. All right, so according to this definition, the treatment of Africans brought to the Americas was definitely slavery because some slaves died from excessive labor and they were not provided with good living spaces, right? So what you're trying to do is include details that really connect to what you placed here in the definition. So, you know, we give here examples of some slaves died from excessive labor and they were not provided with good living spaces. So that definitely connects to the second part of definition when you talk about that slavery is defined as pain and mistreatment. So that's that really connects to that aspect of the definition. So there's lots of different ways you can do the introduction. This is like just an example, but just remember that you really definitely need to put this first part, which is I guess you can say it's a definition, right? So this first part is the definition of slavery, and then the second part is is how American slavery really connects to that definition of slavery. Okay. All right. So, and that's basically what you have to do for the introduction. Now, for the claim is very important because basically it's a place where you are clearly stating which myth you are focusing on for this paragraph, and it also provides like a clear answer to a clear opinion and reason as to why you feel that the myth is not correct or is like just a big lie. All right, and it also really gives it clearly states what the paragraph is about, what you're focusing on. So and you'll see, you know, you can always read the notes right here. That's essentially what I've just said. And let's work on this example. All right, so as you can see here, this is exactly how it's on your meal paragraph document. So the idea is for you to keep this first part. You do not delete it. You keep it, and it says one of the most common myths about slavery is that, and all it's asking you to do next is to write the myth that you are choosing to debunk or disprove and place it there. So the easiest way to do this is really to I guess you can say you can just delete this part right there because those are just instructions. And all you have to do now is copy and paste the myth that you're focusing on and put it here. So you can just scroll up to this part right here, where it says the myth that you have chosen, and you're going to copy it. So I'm doing Control C right now, and now you're going to paste it right there. One of the most common myths about slavery is that, and Control V. There you go. Now, obviously, this looks a little bit off because of the color and some of the grammar. So, you should fix it. All right. I'll take off the highlight right now. And it should only have one period. And this E should be not capitalized. All right. So now let's read it together. One of the most common myths about slavery is that enslaved people were happy with their lives because they did not try to resist or fight back against slavery. So the sentence sounds pretty natural, and it's very clearly known which myth you're talking about, which myth you will try to disprove in your meal paragraph. So now the next question is, okay, now you want to say why, like what's wrong with this myth? Why do you think it's not true? So that's where the second part comes into play. It says, however, this myth is definitely not true because, and then so that's the starter for this. So this is something you don't change, you just leave it like that, but you have to write, but then it's up to you to write down the reasons why this myth is not true, but don't give any specific details yet. Like I'm sure some of you already have some ideas or specific details about what you want to write about from stuff that we've studied in class already or something that you've read, but this is not the place for putting those specific details. You kind of want to just talk about the bigger ideas first, okay? Right here. So what we're focusing on here is, like, it says, however, this myth is definitely not true because, I'm going to include this one right here. All right. However, this myth is definitely not true because many slaves tried to escape the slavery system. All right. So this is like pretty short. It's pretty, but it's also very clear. So don't think that just because what you wrote here in the second part, your reasoning, just because it's very short, it doesn't mean that it's not good. Like sometimes having a shorter sentence is better because it helps to make it more clear. So let's read both of these parts together, just to make sure that this claim is just make sure that this claim is good, right? So and it's clear and it makes sense. One of the most common myths about slavery is that enslaved people were happy with their lives because they did not try to resist or fight back against slavery. However, this myth is definitely not true because many slaves tried to escape the slavery system. All right, so it sounds like this is pretty clear. And remember that the claim has to basically introduce what you will talk about for this paragraph. And so just based on this short opinion and short reason, and here's the opinion and this would be the reason, we can say that the focus of this paragraph is going to be on how slaves escaped the slavery system. So so that's basically what you're going to be focusing on in your paragraph. That's the evidence that you're going to look for. So let's move on to that other important part, the evidence. So the evidence is very important. It's the details and the examples that basically prove what your opinion is about, what your claim is about. Okay. Now, since it's history class, you are expected to use reliable sources. You are expected to provide the names of the sources, and to make sure that the evidence you are selecting really connects to the claim. Um, Now, a lot of the evidence that you're going to find, it can be found in the website. So if you click here, it'll take you to the website. I believe it should all be familiar to you because we've been using this website for like the last couple of weeks, and it has lots of different topics and lots of different information available for you to use in the writing of this meal paragraph. Now, before we go on, I will say this, that in this meal paragraph, you're expected just to use one evidence, right? Since it is the first meal paragraph, it's a way to sort of make it easier for you to complete the paragraph. So you have one evidence and one analysis, right? Now, if you want to maximize the points and you want to really demonstrate that you understand what the purpose, if you want to demonstrate that you really understand how to do a meal paragraph, how to find evidence, there's a couple of things that you can do. One is that instead of only providing one evidence and one analysis, you provide two evidences and two pieces of evidence and two analysis. That'll really demonstrate that you understood, and it'll also show that you have a lot of evidence that you want to provide to support your ideas. And also, it's good practice because when you do the PBATs later on in the year, the expectation is that you give two pieces of evidence when you write the paragraphs for your PBAT projects, right? Something else to keep in mind is, like I said, I did give you a lot of information on this website, but you can also Google search for your own evidence. All right. If you're able to find reliable evidence on your own and include it here, well, that just demonstrates that you really do understand how to find reliable evidence, and it shows that you're able to work more independently, so that will give you more points. In case you're not sure how to do those things, how to find reliable evidence, if you look here on the left column, you'll see as we scroll down, you'll find a video here that I've posted that explains how to find evidence using reliable sources. And I also have the reliable website list, which will have reliable news websites and also reliable history websites for you to use. So please visit these if you are trying to go for maximum points for this paragraph, right? So the evidence, as you can see, it really it requires these three big parts. Okay, so whatever evidence you're providing, whether it's evidence that you find on the website I've sent you or evidence that you are going to find on your own from reliable sources, you need to provide these three things. Number one is the sentence starter. So you have these three choices to start with, and it's a sentence starter, which means that this is the first thing that you write in the sentence. So you can choose from as the author chosen, according to, or based on. All right. After the sentence starter, you're going to include the name or title of source. In case this is a little confusing for you, I can show you right now examples from the website. So let's say, for example, you are looking for evidence about how slaves were treated in the Americas. So if I click here, it has lots of different topics, right? So maybe you want to look at the daily life of a slave, and here you have some details, and all of these details, the name of the source is here at the bottom. Source: The Captives' Experience and Slave Resistance article by BBC Bite Size. So this is what would be considered the name of the source. You have other sections as well, and these also have a source. And just throughout the website, every piece of information will have sources attached to them, so that you're able to cite them and to demonstrate that the sources come from, reliable, that the information comes from reliable sources. So it's pretty simple to find it. If you're looking at the website, you just look for the word source, and and it'll say the name of the source. Okay. The last part is the details or examples found in the source that support or connect to your claim. So if we're going back to the website, this is the name of the source, and all of this information here, this would be the details or the information or the examples that you may use. So it's really gonna, and there's a couple of different ways you can provide the details. You can either copy and paste. So you can take say you found this part right here, you think it's really interesting, you would just, click copy, and then you would paste it into your document. Or if it's, maybe you want to include all of this, I would not recommend it. That's a lot of evidence, and it just makes it seem like you're putting a lot of different information, but you're not really sure what is the correct one. If you're planning on posting a lot of things like that, I recommend just summarizing the ideas. That would be the best thing. All right, so let's look at an example right here. And just so in case you haven't noticed, these are in different colors here, just to make it more clear what I am showing you right now. So let me post the example that's created. There you go. So as you can see in this example, let's read it together first. As the author shows in The Breathtaking Courage of Harriet Tubman by TED Video, a woman named Harriet Tubman escaped slavery and also became the leader of a movement to help other slaves escape. This was a big hit against slavery. So so you can see that this information, this evidence has all of the parts that I'm asking you to include. It uses one of the sentence starters, as you can see by the color combo. It provides the title of the source, right? And we all saw this video together in class. And I will say that a lot of the videos that we see in class together, you can find them here in the same website. There's a section that says videos about slavery, and you should be able to find even more videos than the ones we've seen, but it also I think all of the videos that we've seen in class. So we've watched this video right here about the Atlantic slave trade. And this is the Harriet Tubman video. All right, so it has the title of the source, and it also has a detail of some details about what was played in the video. And as you can see, this is like a summary. So you just write it very, very easily like this. However, if you copied and pasted it, you would need to add what are called quotation marks, as I'm showing you now. So remember that quotation marks are used for when you copy things, and if you're not copying but you're only summarizing, then you do not need the quotation marks. Now for this example, it was a summary, so I'm deleting the quotation marks. Right? So yeah, so you have a lot of different options for what is you have a lot of different options for where you can find evidence. But if you are at all confused, of course, I recommend that you begin with the Atlantic Slave Trade and Slavery in the Americas webpage. I think that is a very good place to start. And frankly, I did give you a lot of information on the website, like more information that we had time. We didn't even have time to look through it all during class. So please use the information while you're working on these meal paragraphs. All right, so that is evidence. It's done. Now moving on to analysis. So analysis is pretty important because it's To be honest, it's something that a lot of our students, even as they go into 11th or 12th grade, it's something that they struggle with. So if you find it challenging, find it difficult to write a good analysis, you know, there's no need for you to be too frustrated. Like a lot of students struggle with it, and but I will say that it does get better the more you practice it. And if you are already capable of doing some good analysis, if a teacher has told you, hey, I think your analysis is good, I think your analysis is great, well, then that's great for you. Like you're already like a step ahead. So let me tell you what any analysis should have. Okay. Now, analysis really comes down to connections. Your analysis is basically an explanation of how things connect to one another. Specifically, when you're writing a meal paragraph, analysis is how your evidence, which is this right here, how your evidence connects to the claim you wrote, which is this right here, right? So for this specific example, your analysis should talk about how this evidence that you've listed about Harriet Tubman connects to your claim, which focuses on the fact that that slaves tried to escape the slavery system, and so that demonstrates that enslaved people were not happy, because they were trying to resist and fight back. So let's go back down here. Yeah, so your analysis should have these different parts, and to make sure that you have everything included. All right. So analysis also has a sentence starter. So here are some choices you have. You can choose this means that, this demonstrates that, this shows that, and this indicates that. So you're choosing only one of these. After the sentence starter, what you're going to do is you're going to write a short summary of the claim and evidence you're using. All right, so I know that before you even write the analysis, you've already written a claim, you've already written the evidence, but what you want to do is right after the sentence starter, you want to summarize what the claim is about and what the evidence you're using, what that's about as well. Okay. After this, you're going to have to write a clear and direct explanation of how the evidence details connect to your claim. So that's like, where you're being very clear and very obvious about why you chose this evidence and how does it connect to your claim? How does it prove your claim? All right. And then the last part is you want to try to make a bigger connection to the topic that you're discussing. And what I mean by that is that, you're just making this connection between the evidence and the claim, but you also want to make a connection to, the bigger ideas that we're discussing in class at the time. So for example, in this specific paragraph, you want to explain like how your evidence, like about Harriet Tubman, about how she organized this movement to help free enslaved people, to help free them from slavery. You want to explain how this connects to like bigger ideas about slavery in the United States. And also, like, this whole meal paragraph is focused on myths. So you might want to also talk about why you believe that people believe these myths, because that's like an important idea. So if you want to go for maximum points on analysis, well, you're going to have to make these bigger connections connected to the topic. And one other thing that you can make a connection about is like, you can basically just talk about why this topic itself is important. Like, why do we need to talk about slavery? Why do students learn about slavery in school? This is something that you can also include in the analysis, and it's the way to get like even more points. All right, so let's go ahead and use these to build so to basically build an analysis. All right, so first it says we need the sentence starter. So let's start here to start build the analysis, the example. So I'm going to go with this means that as a sentence starter. Okay. And like I said, the next step is a summary of both the claim and what the evidence is about. Okay. So after the sentence starter, you have to put a summary of the claim and what the sentence starter, what the evidence was about. All right. So right here, we have this. So the myth about slaves not resisting is definitely not true. All right. So right there, that is a summary of the claim. You're basically saying, okay, this is the claim, and I'm saying it's not true. That's it. That's all you need to do for the summary of the claim. And then you're also, and now after that, you're summarizing the evidence. So it says, because there was a woman named Harriet Tubman who became famous because of her work helping slaves escape. All right, so that's the second part. You have basically summarized the claim of this paragraph, and you summarize the evidence. And now the next part says that we have to make a clear and direct explanation of how the evidence details connect to your claim. So this shows that enslaved people were not happy because they wanted to escape and be free. All right. So this clearly shows like how Harriet Tubman and helping enslaved people escape. How does that show that? How does that connect to? How does that demonstrate that the myth is not true? Well, because if people were trying to escape, that means that they weren't happy, right? So this shows that enslaved people were not happy because they wanted to escape and be free, right? So if you were to do this as your evidence, as your analysis, I think this would be a pretty good job. Like, it's fine. You give, three big parts. You give a sentence starter, you summarize the claim and evidence, and you give a clear explanation of how they connect, right? So, but I think you want to go for full points, for the maximum points. So let me go for this, the fourth part about making bigger connections. All right, so the fact that so many people wanted to escape really demonstrates how terrible the lives of enslaved people were, which included beatings, malnutrition, and separation of families. This also shows why it is important to fight against myths about slavery. All right, so remember that what you're trying to do is you're trying to, in this final bigger connections part of the analysis, you're trying to demonstrate what you know about slavery. You're trying to make connections to bigger ideas and trying to include more details. So, right here, you in the first part, it's explaining a little bit more like why your evidence connects to the claim. The fact that so many people wanted to escape really demonstrates how terrible the lives of enslaved people were. And then, you give more details. You mentioned that their lives were terrible, so you give some specific examples of how that's true. So you include things about beatings, malnutrition, separation of families. All of those are details that we talked about in class, and you're now showing them in your analysis. And maybe you want to ask the question, like, why are we doing this meal paragraph? Why are we focusing on this topic about myths? So this can also be your opportunity to give details about that, just to in your own words, to explain, hey, why are we talking about this? Why is this discussion important? And if you do that, well, I think that really shows that you're thinking about thinking about the class and thinking about why we study history. Why is it important to discuss and talk and to study history? So if you include some ideas like that into your analysis, I think that will really demonstrate that you understand what's happening in class, and also will it'll mean like more a higher grade for you because you really understand it. And now what's left is the link. So the link really has like two functions. Okay, the first function is that the link is used as a way to summarize the meal paragraph. So whatever it is that you talked about, so far, the link is a way to just kind of like say the main ideas and the main points of what this paragraph is about, and provide a close for the paragraph. Um, Now, this is just one paragraph that we're doing, so really a link is about summary. However, if we were doing like an essay, several paragraphs, then the link is also an opportunity for you to connect um, this paragraph to the next paragraph. um, and just so you know, like those kinds of connections, they take time to develop as a skill. So if you don't think you can do that when you are writing essays, it's not, it's fine. But I will say that if you are able to make those connections and those transitions from one paragraph to the next paragraph, it really makes a big difference in the quality of your writing. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. All right, so the link is you need to choose one of these ways to start it. The link does have a sentence starter, so you can choose it. You can choose in conclusion, you can do in summary, or essentially. For us, we are using essentially. So let's write here the example, essentially. And of course, you need to put a comma after this sentence starter, essentially. And you can do the claim in a few different ways. The example I'm showing right here is giving a summary in like your own words about what the paragraph was about. So here it says, essentially, the myth about slaves being happy because they did not resist is a big lie, because thousands of slaves tried to escape the system. People like Tubman made it possible for people to escape the horrible system, right? So, you've basically kind of summarized what you discussed, and that is all. Then this link is completed. What some people do is they go to the claim and they basically copy their claim and just and paste it into the link. So I'm going to show you we're doing that right now. So copy, Control C, put down. So there, I'm just showing you a couple of different ways you can do this. You can do that, or you can say essentially, comma, and let's make sure these are together. So you can say, do it this way. Essentially, one of the most common myths about slavery is that enslaved people were happy with their lives because they did not try to resist or fight back against slavery. However, this myth is definitely not true because many slaves tried to escape the slavery system. All right, so if we look at both of these two examples, well, they are basically saying the same thing. The only difference is that in this second example, you basically just copied and pasted the claim. In the first example, it's actually a summary. It's how you, in your own words, how you summarize what you discussed, what the major ideas were in this paragraph. So if you are just starting off with writing meal paragraphs, I think the copy and paste method, the second option, I think that's fine, right? It's it's a way to make sure that the claim and the link are basically the same. However, if you think you can summarize the paragraph in your own words, then you can also try that method. Okay. As long as it's clear, and whatever method you use, as long as it's clear and it provides like it gives an idea of what the paragraph was about, then you've done your job, right? So that was the link. So that was the last section of this meal paragraph. So if you were able to follow along by watching this video and then also looking at the sample meal paragraphs that I've provided for you, then you know, then that's it. Then you are finished with this meal paragraph. Thank you for your time, and I hope that this was helpful for all of you to understand how to do a meal paragraph and specifically how to complete this meal paragraph.